For someone who's feeling that I'm not able to figure out, it's okay. I believe you just keep trying a lot of things, and eventually you'll figure out, uh, what is it, that you are liking. Sometimes the thing which you feel you are passionate about, uh, you really aren't liking it when you start when you kind of start doing it. Probably we all have had that experiences once in a while. For example, uh, during school days, I wanted to dance on stage quite bad because I thought I might like it, but when I got the opportunity, I realized it's not just not my thing. I can just do shadi dance. I cannot dance on stage. So it's kind of like that. You just need to keep trying things out, and even if you have not figured out what your real passion is, just stay at it. You'll figure out for sure. Think of the basics of the business or basic economics first. And I'm a big uh, believer of basic economics, that if your basic economics are right, you can take your business and scale your business to any extent. So that's what I believe. We can scale the product in certain directions that we probably are not aware at this point of time. We'll know more and more the more we'll sort of interact with the users, and uh, the more and more we talk to the users and build something for them over the period of time. But uh, whatever they are enjoying it, it's important to make sure that the economics are balanced, and we make sure that we are getting in revenues for the product, for the company, and it is staying afloat, in a way that anyone would expect, not by just being in the valuation game, in my opinion.
The Research Labs podcast by Sunday Pajamas. So first of all, Abhishek, good morning, and thank you for spending some time. Not some time. I think last time we talked, we spent a lot of time talking to each other. So I really appreciate that. And today is a Saturday, and when you record on a Saturday, I feel that only people who are very excited record on a Saturday.
I think you made it exciting as well. The last time we had a conversation, it was very. You are a very curious person, that we sort of figured out, and the way you sort of engaged the entire conversation, it was no brainer that even if it's a Saturday, the only time I get uh, out of work, but even if it's a Saturday, I'm coming definitely for the podcast and recording this for sure. So yeah, that's
I, I
that's
I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. In our previous conversation, right, you talked about a couple of things which kind of made me think. The first one was that you started out in this city called Nagpur. For people who are not aware about Nagpur, if you're listening from, for example, not India, uh, we'll try to explain the position of Nagpur, because I think it will be important to explain the psychological background of people who are from not the Mumbai's and Delhi's of India, including myself. So we can discuss about the psychological makeup of the culture of people in various cities of India. Because I'll tell you why. Because I feel it's important to kind of explain your story, to give that kind of context. Okay, why it was such an incredible thing what you were able to do. And apart from that, I think you have done a phenomenal job with the design agency that you have built, and you are moving forward and trying to build a product from ground up, which again is a very, I would say, expensive and costly and risky endeavor. So I would also want to explore the mindset behind that. So to begin, right, I would say, how about we go back in the early days, right? Maybe in school, maybe in college, whatever, let's say, you think is significant, and maybe start like a story. Okay, how were you in school, or how were you in college, and what were the things you were seeing at the time which you feel right now kind of made you do what you are doing right now?
okay. So I think back in school days, one of the major things that happened was I joined a semi-government school, which was like half funded by government and half funded by the school organization itself. And it was a state board school. It wasn't a CBSE school. So the fun of state board is like, in itself a pretty amazing one. Like if you know one. So I was here in Maharashtra, Nagpur, and studying from a Maharashtra state board school is was quite amazing. Uh, Two state advantages, but the pressure of academics is a little lower. Is a little low when compared to CBSE education. Slight people might disagree to it, but I felt like that because when we our batch had that leeway of assignments and things like that, which for which we used to get internal marks and things like that. So that was a big plus. But one of the things which I felt was what really good happened to us in school, as soon as I joined, in probably the fifth grade of fifth standard, uh, our school opened up computer classes, right? They created a computer lab for the growth of students, which was an amazing thing that happened in my life. I believe there were very less state board schools at that point of time who were doing this, and I was lucky to be in one of those where a computer lab, you don't expect like something like that happening in Nagpur, back then, but it happened, and it was a really interesting thing that happened because I was uh, absolutely crazy for computers. I used to definitely we as kids as at that age. Uh, we all love to play games, right? Probably you must remember titles like more Road Rash and Motocop, VCop 2, things like that, right? Coming from brands like Sega. So I used to go to my neighbor's place and play those games, and uh, to understand the fact that now there will be a dedicated computer lab in school, and we would be able to spend time and learn a lot more things apart from just playing games. We used to have game sessions, but we used to learn a lot of things. We started learning HTML from sixth grade and seventh grade, uh, and playing with, remember that marquee tag, that legendary marquee tag, which made all of us excited in HTML. So started playing with that sixth grade, seventh grade, and that was quite a shift. I think that happened in my career very early on, which probably defined me, what the kind of direction I'll be taking with my career. I was absolutely passionate about computers, and the what school did to me was a step ahead. Now, the second thing which impacted what I am doing right now during the school days was so I used to live in the remote areas of Nagpur. So my school was around 25 kilometers away from where I used to live in the main city,
Yeah.
and we used
Wow.
to do like a
That's far
daily.
away.
Yeah, that was quite far, but so we used to live in a coalfields area, Western coalfields area. So my dad was a coal mine worker, right? So he was a government servant. So we had this service of buses, WCL buses. They used to pick us from our homes, leave us somewhere around 3 to 4 kilometers away from the school, and we used to walk that much and get to the school. And it was quite an amazing daily routine to have. We used to travel, we used to walk, we used to play, we used to have fun during that walk. Uh, but to what my dad really did, uh, amazing. He used to come at school during only during the results day, because otherwise he never used to get time, and he used to interact with teachers and understand my areas of interest. He never told me about this until we grew up. I thought he just used to stare at my report card and then stare back at me, and that was it. That was all about my report card day. But he actually used to take feedback from teachers and understand what my areas of interest are. And he figured out that I was crazy, going crazy about computers, and I was doing good in computers. So uh, he got me a personal computer when I was probably in the seventh standard, which was which was probably a big thing back then. When I was in
Yeah, with the
sixth or seventh.
CPU and this and the desktop and everything.
Yeah, exactly. With a P4 desktop, it was an Intel Pentium 4 with a CRT monitor and Windows XP in it, probably a pirated version. But yes, it was something, right? It was something back then, which You, I would have never expected because it was where I used to stay in the city. In city, it was common, but where I used to stay, like in that remote area, uh, hardly anyone had computer at that point of time, right? Especially like my batchmates, they used to like people used to get computer when they used to uh, graduate, or like they used to get, at least clear their 12th standard exams, and then they used to get a computer. But to get a computer, get a personal computer at that age was I was completely mind blown. It was a move that probably inspired me even more to do something in computers. So I started exploring from that age, and I always that became like one of the motivating factors to like to what I'm doing right now. To be honest, and to be
Did,
honest,
did you did you talk to your dad about this?
yeah, I did talk to my dad about this. So I whenever I look back to my career, I think that was one of the turning points, and I think whatever I'm today, it was because of that move that he made back in
Yeah, I'm
2007.
very sure about it actually. That makes sense. So what did he say? Those were the really early days of computers in India.
Right,
So
exactly.
what was he thinking? Did you ask him?
Yeah, so
Because
he
they were
told me
not like cheap. It was not cheap. It was like expensive.
he probably was earning his salary at that point. I remember it was somewhere around 12,000 rupees a month, right? Even though he was a government employee. But the computer was worth more than 30,000. So that means like it was three times that is more than three times more than his like a monthly salary. So it was crazy how he managed. So I did had a conversation about him what made you decide. So he told me he used to see that I had sheer passion about these things. Although I was just about in in playing, I just used to play games, but being passionate about just playing games on computer, he thought this might turn into something. Uh, लेके देते हैं लेकिन कुछ तो कर ही लेगा इसके साथ. So that was the kind of approach that he had. He was just and then he heard feedback from teachers at school, which made him realize that there is a potential. It's not just about gaming or anything, but there's a potential that he's really enjoying the other aspects of computers as well. So that uh, and from that point, it still took him another 6 months to save and buy it because at that time EMIs were not a real thing. If Yeah, right. There were nothing credit cards back then, and even if they were at a very early stage. Uh, for that to reach a government employee working for WCL earning just 12,000 rupees a month, forget about it. At that point, so to literally save some amount of money after listening to that feedback, to literally save something from his salary month after month after month, and uh, probably tell me the last bit of that savings that he made. It got pushed a little because uh, someone else in the colony was also buying a computer for his son who just got into bachelor's in computer application. Right, that dude was in first year of his bachelor's in computer application. That's why his father decided to buy him a computer. And here I was, probably in the middle of seventh grade, who was just thinking ki how should I write HTML or make the background color of something into red using CSS. Uh, for that person, his father was thinking to buy a computer, and that was quite an amazing thing at that point of time. I do realize about this. Probably at that age, I was just excited and I used the computer a lot, to be honest. But to his credit, to whatever he did, it was quite amazing. Biggest turning point, I would say.
If you read this book called Outliers, right, by Malcolm Gladwell, in the book he kind of explains how Bill Gates' school was one of the first schools to have computers in America.
America, right?
Yeah, like he got access to a computer when he was like I think 8 years old or 9 years old,
Right.
which is pretty I would say lucky. Not I would say, but that's what the argument Malcolm Gladwell is making, that for Bill to be in that school, which was very pro computers in that era, is pretty pretty futuristic in nature. And I think that's how your story also sounds like to me.
Yeah, yeah, something on the similar lines. Yeah, I would say, there's a relatability to it. It's uh, uh, I think, there was a time, it started uh, getting a boom, at least in tier two cities, uh, for the computers, and people understood the importance of uh, taking computers and reaching out to the younger ones as well in schools. That was probably the first line of, and to be in that first line was quite lucky. I should say, I must admit that I was quite lucky.
Don't you feel like if you have access to something like computer, right, or internet, it it kind of eliminates like the tier effect of cities that cities have on the future of children, like because you had access to all of this, it, I mean, maybe psychologically it might impact and it might take a while to get out of it, but the computer is kind of pushing you out of it regardless you like it or not.
Absolutely, I think there are two aspects to it, for sure. Computer definitely helps you you know, so I also got an internet connection, which again, credit to my father. He also, not just stopped at giving us a computer, but he also got us an internet connection a year later. uh, and it was that, dial up connection, which used to make those jari sounds before getting connected to the internet. We all know about it, right? Probably, people, Gen Z's won't
With like
understand.
modem and all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The later Gen Zs won't understand, but yeah, there used to be a modem which we used to fit inside our CPUs. Just we used to connect our cables, and then we used to connect our internet through it. So it was it was very. Uh, I was fortunate to again have an internet at that age, and we all got exposed to the world of social media by Orkut.com, if you remember. So what Orkut did at that age? It I talk about two facets of it. Like it definitely uh, of eliminates the tier part, especially these days. If you see, it has become more global, and you're coming out of where you are, and to explore the other parts of the world, it's very seamless. But that was still the beginning, and there used to be a hesitation in mind where if we are interacting from, for example, someone in Bombay, and they have a different way of probably talking to people. So we used to get confused, or maybe we used to feel a little under the mind, Arey, this dude knows quite a lot, and probably we are nothing in front of him. So that comparison used to kick in, at that age. At that age you don't understand what the internet is all about. And even if someone who has used internet or social media sites for connecting, and he's just 4 or 5 months ahead of you, he has probably used up a lot of resources and used to feel probably I've joined the journey a little late, and those kind of things kicking in your mind. So that was the thing back then. But eventually, the more and more you interact, the more and more I stayed in the game. I started understanding it's all about uh, realizing your own passions, connecting with people with genuine curiosity, and staying in it. And eventually, you'll end up making friends. Now, there are so many. Probably our generation will relate that there are so many online friends that we have never met in person, but they've ended up becoming such amazing friends of ours, right? So uh, this was there were so many amazing relationships that I was able to make because of internet. I was able to start my own blog because of internet, with a couple of internet friends with whom I never met in person. So those kind of things happened because of that computer and internet back then. So yeah, quite an amazing journey back then, for sure.
Do you also feel like the current, not the current generation, we are the current generation, but the generations who are, let's say, younger than us, are kind of forgetting how difficult it was, like just like 5, 10 years ago?
I think, in my opinion, they are not to blame. They we ended up, it, probably it was the same for us when we got into the picture, and we had different perspective to the world, and the generation before has had different kind of struggles, right? So I don't think they are to blame. It's about the circumstances that you are in. It's just you need to have, like, basic human characteristics, and just try to be as human as possible, and then with whatever is available at your disposal, just try to do good for yourself and for the people around you and for the community and the humanity in total, and just uh, enjoy the journey, and make sure that you're not getting trapped in computers, for sure. It's definitely something they have much more accessibility to it, and the kind of internet boom that our country has seen over the past few years. So they have much more accessibility, like a better accessibility to it. But I think it's uh, I feel like, they had their opportunities. They have, like, better opportunities than us, and it's fine. Like, even if they can be curious and get to know about our struggles, or like, struggles of, like, a generation before. Uh, but even if they are not probably, like, uh, understanding and, like, going on with their journey, it's fine.
So let's say you got the access to the computer, right? And you decided that, maybe this is it. So how long do you feel it kind of took you that, okay, I want to get into UI UX or product, number one. And then after that realization, how long did it take you to kind of get it, what, maybe I can build a business around it?
Oh, that was quite a journey. So uh, I think one when I got computers, then access to internet, the next thing that happened. Like, I started reading a lot of magazines back in school days. So what magazines did, I ended up communicating with a lot of people from the magazine community. So I was reading Digit magazine, which is quite popular here in India, like one of the best tech magazines. Uh, so I'm still, like, in touch with with their, like, editor in chief, Robert Sovereigns, with, like, fantastic guy. I used to read that magazine. That influenced me quite a lot in terms of writing in the tech segment. So I start my first thing, for which I got paid from the online community, was writing articles on tech, right? Which used to be, like, giving away your opinion about certain gadgets, like an opinion based things, or like, giving away your opinion about certain software after trying it out. So I started doing that with certain websites like the Geeks Club or the Windows Club. Those were my first uh, paying jobs as a freelancer, which when I think I did that as a when I was probably in 12th standard. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, or
That's
maybe
early.
that's certainly, yeah, or maybe a little before that. I think probably in 11th standard I started doing that, and then that also inspired me to start my own blog, uh, which probably is nowhere now, but I'll try to share the URL maybe after the call, and you will. It was quite amazing. So we sort of made our own group of people. I connected with, like, a few people from the digital community only, and we started writing together on one blog. So that was quite an amazing journey. Then over the period of time, in college days, I got excited about learning Photoshop. So that's how I got into design. So this I started learning Photoshop back in school days. It was Photoshop CS2 back in that time, CS2 or Photoshop version 9. So that was my first version of Photoshop. Uh, I learned it from, like, I started learning it from 10th standard, and then I used to, like, design posters, or shadi ke cards, just for fun, right? Even if they were not being used, I used to, like, design these kind of things just for fun, which got me into design. But what reading, like, magazines like Open Source or Digit did to me, I wanted to become something. I wanted to become a coder. Like, I wanted to do something with code, and I learned a lot of uh, basic fundamentals of web development during my school days. So I knew, like, what I wanted to. I had a little bit of clarity what I wanted to do with code, but I was not sure, like, how you can get into that track yet. Uh, so uh, During the college days, I just gave up on writing because of college curriculum and the kind of fun we were having in college. that was different thing. But uh, again in college as well, I was designing a lot of posters and never stopped designing work. So I used to just reach out to people and help them with any of the design assignments just for free, just for fun. That never stopped. And then uh, I started training for I used to watch Bucky's channel, uh, the new Boston, right? And used to learn a lot of coding by watching his channel. Yeah, so that happened, and he was probably OG. He was the OG of it, probably who started teaching a lot of coding stuff. So I learned a lot from him, and when my college got over, I actually did very bad in academics. So failed. I failed in my college, and I wasn't able to. I did normal BSc graduation, so there was nothing like campus in our college. But from Nagpur University, there was nothing like campus in our college, and I never went ahead for my masters either. So from my local connections, I actually got my first job as a content writer because of the past experiences that I had of writing
In
blogs and
11th
things
and
like.
12th. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I got my first job as a content writer, and I in that it was a small agency in which I saw people doing people creating web templates and designing web templates. So at that point, I wasn't getting a crack in development areas, but I did try like I did a good job in impressing my boss and getting some design work for myself. So so that happened. I got into design a little bit in I started that designing career, the graphic designing career from there. And yeah, so I did coding jobs after that. I did probably did my first job for the first 6 months, and then I the next jobs were I was the sole designer again in a startup, in a medical tourism startup. But again, I had that my hands were itching to do a full time development job, so I was doing some freelance work as a front end developer. But my final job before starting my own thing was actually a front end developer who realized that okay, my hands were itching, but development is not really a thing for me. So that was the entire story of of trying out graphics. UX part came a little later, where I uh, uh, where I got to know about this wave of UI UX, which where you can sort of translate your graphic design skills to into sort of becoming a UX designer, and that's how UX happened. And that was a journey on my own. But it took a little bit of it took quite a bit of time to understand what I'm really passionate about. So from being a content writer to being a designer part time, and to being a designer in a company, to being a coder eventually working for a company whose hands were itching, the person whose hands were itching to code all the time, and to eventually having that realization of okay, that this isn't meant for me. So that was the all probably it's quite jarring and quite boring to listen to say that out in 10 minutes of time, but yes, that's how it all went.
Oh, I don't think it's boring at all, actually. Because maybe right now it's 10 minutes, but how much time was this in actual life?
In actual life, I think it was around from 2009, from my 10th standard to 2016, I guess. So it was 7 years.
7 years, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, a lot of times when we are sharing, it kind of feels, it was easy. But when you are kind of in it, and I really hope that a lot of people who are listening, I don't hope that they are in it, but I'm hoping that if they are in it, they can kind of feel that, sometimes if you kind of, are true to what you really want to do in today's day and age with the internet, it's kind of possible to figure it out for yourself.
Right. And for someone who's feeling that I'm not able to figure out, it's okay. I believe you just keep trying a lot of things, and eventually you'll figure out what is it that you are liking. Sometimes the thing which you feel you are passionate about, uh, you really aren't liking it when you like start when you kind of start doing it. Probably we all have had that experiences once in a while. For example, uh, during school days, I wanted to dance on stage quite bad because I thought like I might like it, but when I got the opportunity, I realized like it's not just not my thing. I can just do shadi dance. I cannot do cannot dance on stage. So it's kind of like that. Like you just need to keep trying things out, and even if you have not figured out like what your real passion is, just stay at it. You'll figure out for sure.
I follow this YouTuber called Van Neistat, and he's an artist, and he just started his YouTube like a year ago, and he has a series called The Spirited Man. Okay, and in one of the videos, so if you want to picture him, right, imagine he's like a hardcore artist person who is a very deep thinker and writer, and his YouTube videos are unlike anything you have watched on YouTube because he does not watch YouTube. Like he has not consumed YouTube until he was like 40,
Okay.
right? And he was in like an hardcore art field for all his life. So what he is making, right, you have not seen it anywhere on YouTube at all because it's not like a copy paste of what other people are doing, right? And in one of the videos he talks about what to do with your life, and he kind of says that the purpose of your life is to give your everything behind what you feel is the purpose of your life. And if you don't have a purpose in your life, then the purpose of your life is to find one.
Right. Quite an amazing one. Yes. Actually, I can relate with it so much.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I would say I'm really still fascinated to understand, right? Like, okay, you were doing all of these things and it makes sense, there were influences, you had ideas, but like how did the switch happen from going from, let's say, trying different things and feeling that, what, I really want to like become a business owner now? Because it's a it's a very different thing. It's not the same thing. You cannot just get inspired to do it. Like there has to be something more than that.
Hmm. I think uh, for me it was uh, I never wanted to be a business owner in the first place. It was all by accident, in my opinion. Uh, so for someone who has started doing business back in 2017, in 6 years of time or like in 5 years of time, we are touching 2023 very soon. So probably in 5.5 or 6 years of time, we would expect that the team has grown by at least the team is having 50 or 60 people in it for sure. So but with me, I'm still with a 12-member team because I scale very slowly, or like when it comes to agency, uh, I'm very it has a very personal touch to it. Like it is every team member has to sort of align with the values, the kind of values that I started this agency with with the kind of vision I have. So this also took a little bit of realization, but I also like it happened by accident. Let me get to that point. So I think I started. Uh, so here's how it went. Like I wanted to actually join a UX design agency out there in Bangalore or Hyderabad, one of the coolest UX design agency. Uh, they are our competitors right now, but I would take the name happily. They are called Lollipop, right? So Anil is one of the fantastic designers, and I was a big fan, big raving fan of Anil Reddy at that point of time. Right? So I wanted to go out and join uh, Lollipop for sure because I felt like that I had uh, sheer passion for design. Uh, I was uh, and I wanted to be in the world of UX after what I saw Lollipop doing at that point of time. But I wasn't able to join them because my elder brother, he just left for his further studies to America, US, and my parents were like, elder one is gone. At least you should stay back. Like that kind of expectation they had. And I quit my last job because of uh, there was a lot of micromanagement happening in that work, and the times probably I was spending more than 18 hours at work some days. So like I was going at 9 o'clock in the morning. uh, I was reaching the office 9 o'clock in the morning. I was leaving for office for somewhere around 7 a.m. in the morning because it was 35 kilometers away from my place, and I was coming back 1 p.m. Sorry, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Post midnight. So my parents started, they started getting worried. First of all, initially they thought I'm going for after party after office hours, but then they started looking at the pattern. First of all, they thought I'm making it up, but they realized that it is all for real, and I'm not making up my face. It's for real. I'm spending these many number of hours actually inside the office, and when that there was a week where this kind of thing happened for the entire week, from Monday to Friday, and I was called to work even on Saturday for some minor adjustments that I had to do. And for that day, I also I came back post 5 p.m. inside out. So that got me thinking, okay, I'm probably doing what I was passionate for, passionate about, I'm coding, I'm getting to code, but it was getting quite repetitive because the company just was making us sit and bill for the hours to the client, right? It was not a very good way of we were not innovating anything, or we were not solving some exciting problem. I think I really enjoyed my first job, where actually at that time I was creating a course for someone, so that was an exciting one. I was doing some content creation work, which was quite exciting at that point of time. But doing some monotonous coding work was fine, but doing it just for the sake of running the timer and sticking to your chair just so that we can bill client a little extra for uh you, for human capital that you are right now. So that idea, when it stuck in my head, I was like, what am I doing here? And then I quit that job. And the only if I was not allowed to sort of move to Bangalore to learn UX, there were no institutes in Nagpur or no companies in Nagpur that were following UX at that point of time. The only way I had was to get into it as a solopreneur or as a freelancer, and start doing things and start connecting with people online, start looking for opportunities. And that's how my UX journey started. I took a LinkedIn premium. Sorry, I took a Lynda.com premium, and I started learning for courses. And I took probably started joining online cohorts. A little later, I started joining online cohorts of Interaction Design Association (IXDA), and I started investing in good amount of UX books written from Don Norman, Steve Krug, and I started applying my graphic design principles from that perspective. And yeah, that's how it started. I started as a solopreneur, which uh, then later on I scaled it to a team slowly and gradually.
And how were the first, attempts to, let's say, close the client?
Okay.
Like did you just
So I think
figure out how to close?
yeah. So my first clients were from marketplaces like Upwork and Fiverr. So at that point, I was the never into networking with people and asking them for work, because I was an introvert. And I used to feel like if I am going to ask for something, maybe I'm asking for a favor which I'll have to return it back at some point, which which is true, which you need to do. But I was quite hesitant about what kind of favors they might ask for in return, and that shallow thinking of mine uh, never helped. And I never went across the board and started asking to people who were in my close network. Instead, I decided I'll go to the marketplace, and I'll bid on work requirements from unknown people on the internet, and I'll just see where this takes me. And that got me my couple of projects, or quite a few projects in the initial days, which I did solo. And then I got into network with someone, a business person who was like a solopreneur but quite ahead in time. He used to do, he was a UX designer as well. he was a consultant at some company. He used to do like 4 hours of consulting work, but after that he used to do like freelance work as a UX designer, and then he was he was very crude in like doing entire business. So he used to like operate his solo business. He used to start at UX level, but he was very good in technical discussions as well. So he built his own team of collab, like he built his own remote team of developers and designers, and he used to collaborate with them and drive the entire business. So looking at this person uh, inspired me a lot. So his name is Irain, and he did. I got into his network because he was looking for a designer, and somehow from a friend of mine who recommended me to him. Uh, uh, like we just got into touch and we started working together. Although he used to pay a little less in the initial days, but I got a lot of experience. He was very open about sharing his things, how he used to work or how he manages everything, and I was quite astonished by the fact that he was doing all this while sitting at his home at his comfortable, and that was the exact thing I wanted to do as well at this point of time. So to have that kind of personality right in front of you, who was not getting his work from marketplaces, but by making connections, that opened up my eyes, and that got me
Like
thinking
that
that
was a
I,
revelation. Oh, you
yeah,
can
it
do
was a
that.
revelation, and that got me thinking I should do a little more. I should spend a little more time towards branding my own agency, and at least keeping the internet presence uh, up to the notch, and then eventually taking it one step at a time by scaling my business. So I scaled my business actually a little different than him. He always looked for experts in the industry, uh, but I went ahead and started teaching UX after a certain point of time in the local community in Nagpur, and my students ended up becoming my first hires. So that's how that is the kind of approach I took. But his approach was a little different, which comes in handy as well. When I need expertise right on day one, right? So I learned a lot from him. But it was a revelation. But I mixed it up with my sort of thought process and ideologies, and that's how I was able to grow my team.
Hmm. It's very interesting to see like all these ideas just kind of bouncing, and you kind of trying to figure out, okay, this is who I really am, and this I want to do it this way. Even I see people, the kind of person you're describing, they are just actually really good at it, and it works for them.
Right. Actually, it's basically it's like whenever you sit down to design, just like Austin Kleon says, steal like an artist, like you are taking inspiration from the things that are already there in the world, and you are sort of putting it together. So even this also applies to business side of things as well. You are getting inspired by how other people are running their businesses, uh, but you hold your own values and you just mix up things from what you are getting inspired by and what you really want, and you mix them together to create something beautiful for your own venture. So that's what I feel like. Still like an artist also applies to the world of business, where I call it still like an artist as a freelancer or a business owner, and do it in your way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's say you got started as a business, right? What was that point when you kind of realized, it feels like I have made it, or do you still feel it, or you don't feel it right now?
So do feel like I made it because of the certain ingrained values that I have. So my value system works like this. I have a value ladder kind of thing. So I have team and collaboration right on top of it. Like I'll I'll make my team and I'll do anything for them. Right. I'll make sure that I'm being patient with them and I'll give them as much amount of time as possible. So there's a saying in the industry that hire slow and fire quickly. I do hire slow, but I never fire quickly, even if things are not working in the initial days. Even though I'm a bootstrapper, someone who's bootstrapped all of this, I still be patient. I'm still I'm very patient with the process, and let them take their own time, even if things are not working out with them in the initial days. So that period can stretch up to 6 months to a year, which can be a lot for a startup who are funding, who are bootstrapping, who are funding everything out of their own pockets. And uh, yeah, that's what I do. Like I'm being I'm very patient with the process, because I never had plans to scale this up to a very big team, because I was at the heart I was still a creator, or a designer, uh, but never a business owner. So my values are very strong for the team. So if I want someone in the team, I'm very personally connected to them, right? Uh, this should not happen in the professional world, but this is who I am. So I just understood, who I am, and I follow that as my value. The second principle is all about collaboration. So I cannot do anything alone. Uh, I need them, they need me, and we sort of go ahead and do it in a very collaborative manner, and make sure that things are being delivered. And third thing, which is right there on top of my value system, which is health and happiness. So if if we are happy together while doing all of this, and we are healthy together, we can go very long in life. So I just understood these value systems, uh, just what I did when I got to hear about this kind of thing. Actually, there's this. I heard it from a coach, uh, uh, who just told me about this while we were having a journey in a trip, right? And he told me about identifying your value systems and writing them in front of you, and see if you imbibe with it over the period of next 4 or 6 months. So that's what I did. I wrote what I felt were my values, and I kept looking at it for the next 6 months, and just checking it, if that uh, priority list of values is in the right order or not, right? And over the period of six months, when I saw it is there, and when I checked back my life with it, I was quite there with it, right? So success uh, should, I never measure success in terms of the number of an amount of money I earned or something, because it's not not right. Like even being a business owner, it's not on top of my value system. Money is not my number one thing in my list of priorities. So the way I have built my team, and the way I feel about them, the way they feel about me, that was number one thing. So and if I have achieved that, I feel like I've made it.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say it's this is a very strong, extremely long-term strategy also.
Right.
Like if you do these few things right, then money kind of follows you.
Yes, absolutely. Like money, you just need to understand who you are, and if you're running a business, just try to bring it to your business. That's it, and you will definitely find the right people who will vibe with those set of values. Because there are people, even though if they are not vibing with all of them, but things that really matter to you, you will find people who will join your journey for sure. And and, and if you're staying at it, don't worry about the money part, it will come along for sure. Because your people, I believe, you can achieve wonderful things together, and you will be able to do so for sure. Even if someone, if for example, team is not your thing, but you want to go solo and be happy in your own world, just stick with your process and trust your process. You will end up, money will follow for sure, is what I believe.
Do you feel these values were kind of given to you by the culture, the family, or it's something that you kind of figured out on your own? Like you learned it. That, okay, these are the good right things to do.
I think it's a it, it it comes to us culturally, but we figure about it on our own. For example, the way we are sort of raised, or the kind of community we live in, or people with whom we spend our most of the time, that defines us, who we become. But uh, to figure out uh, all of this, it takes just an effort from our end, just to sit down and understand what these values are. Because what happens, there's a very fine analogy given to me by this coach. His name is Sushil Tiwari. So he's from Gurgaon, and he's a fantastic life coach. So he told me once that we all are like child, like when we are sort of children, we are fearless, right? We don't think about anything. We are just uh, living our life, enjoying it to the fullest, right? But over the period of time, uh, there are several layers of fear and uh, like trust, like that sort of uh, keeps stacking on top of each other, right? Uh, like it is fear, mistrust, anger, all these things, like all these negative aspects, they keep coming to us from the society, and the kid we used to be is like now lying right at the bottom of all of these stack of layers, right? So uh, he told me that his job as a life coach was to we cannot remove all those layers, but his job was to just to push those layers a little aside, and maybe and try to see uh from now, like try to see yourself, what positives you can take out of yourself, and how you can sort of define who you have become, and what positive values you can take from your own journey, uh, and what positive things you can take from your own journey and define who you are for real. So under like that's how you get to your values, right? For someone it is family, right? They are very uh, family centered and family oriented, and he said nothing is wrong or right at the end of the day. It's just you need to acknowledge who you have become over the period of so many years while living in this society, while living your own journey, and just uh, acknowledge those things, and build yourself around it, is what he said. So I think it was one of the most beautiful examples that he gave. So we as children, we were something else, we were absolutely crazy and fearless, and we never used to think about anything twice. But as we grow, so many things, there are so many levels of like fear, doubt, and these things kick in, right? But we are only we are uh, we overcome these things, and we find some moment of success when we sort of stop thinking about certain things, and start thinking about who we really are, who we are meant to be, and pay more attention to that person instead.
Yeah, I'm always very curious to, talk to people who are like you, I would say. And what I mean by that, right, is that, like, what do you think, given the kind of cultures we were born in, what was the chance of us doing what we're doing right now? What do you think?
I think it's quite 50-50, to be honest. Like if you
Really?
ask about the chances, right?
I
Uh,
say.
Especially from the place where I come, like school was great. My father's decision to there was a very convenient school which was just not even a kilometer away from our house, but the culture of that place wasn't that great, right? Uh, uh, because it was so remote from the city, and the kids in the colony were uh, like probably were not thinking in that particular direction, or their families were not thinking in those particular directions. So it was I think I was probably part of the right family, uh, even though I was not at the right location. My father took some really harsh decisions, so he was very strict. He never used to let us go out and play with kids in the colony, because he knew what the repercussions could be of those things. So coming from those, now I understand why he used to be strict. Now why he used to be very strict and not let us out, because the number of people staying in that colony. Uh, so actually, one of the very good examples is actually Umesh Yadav, like Indian cricketer. He used to live in the same colony. So there are very few examples in that. Yeah, there are very few examples in that colony who actually made it. But the only pattern that I see in all these people, they never used to spend a lot of time within the colony by just doing matar gashti all the time. They used to do their own thing, right? Uh, they used to be very clear about who they want to be, and keep themselves away from like the things happening in the colony, and go ahead and do your thing. So the best thing what my dad did is uh, uh, put us in school that was so far away from the colony, so that you are spending a lot of time away from this. And even when you're back, you have studies to take care of, you have other things to take care of. We used to get out and play cricket and things like that, but only in summers. So that kind of really got us where we are. But for example, if my father wouldn't have been that strict, it would have been a different story altogether, for sure. That's why I say, probably I should say 80% I wouldn't have made it till here, if my father wouldn't have been strict at that age. Like, he was very strict means very strict. But I think if he wasn't strict, also like it relates to my mother as well. He was she was after we used to get a lot of fatka from our father. She used to be there and support us, and tell us it's all right. And I think I get a lot of patience and empathy from my mother. But I understand the importance of both of them. Why the kind of upbringing they gave to me. And I'm really lucky to be in that family at that point of time. If I would have been in uh 99 in any of the 99% of the families that were there in the colony, I would have been a different person, for sure.
Hmm. So I think that's what I was trying to point out. How was it then 50-50?
Yeah, I think I got it wrong. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
50-50. It was quite drastic, especially being in tier 2 city, and coming from a background of maybe tier 3 or tier 4, because my family roots are in Bihar, right? So I'm a Bengali, but my family roots are in Bihar, uh, in a place called Bhagalpur, right? So so like having so many kind of cultural diversifications, and uh, and even after that, having this kind of career, it's quite amazing. I should not say 50-50. It is probably 95 is to 5. Now that now I'm talking about it, I realize what it is to be like. I should give myself a very hard pinch that I was not a kid who was born in Bangalore or Mumbai. At that point, I was someone who was from Nagpur, but even uh, a very diversified culture still. Like, my father actually came. He was uh, a level one. I would say level one migrant to Maharashtra. Like, no one before him in my family came to Maharashtra, and uh, started working in a different state altogether. And I think that was also a very lucky thing, because if we would have stayed in Bihar, it would have been a different case altogether. Probably I would have appeared for government exams and work for the government, which is also a great thing. But the culture there is absolutely there's a stark difference between culture in there and here. So yeah, I think, yeah, lots of possibilities, probabilities. I started with 50-50.
Yeah, yeah, lots of layers to go through, if you ask
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I started with 50-50. I think I'll end up between 99 is to 1, but I- yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
more
think
we
so.
talk
Maybe
about it,
even less actually.
maybe even less. Yes.
Yep. So I am only pointing this out, okay, because I won't say I know more, but I've been talking to quite a lot of people now, and everyone has the opinion like yours. Oh yeah, 50-50, right? But I don't think, like, I don't see stories like this very often. That's what I would say,
Right.
right? And I don't think when you are the person who is doing it, it's difficult to realize it. Okay. And these are the few things I don't like about our culture, is that even if the culture or the people realizes it, right, they don't want to tell you about it.
Mm. Yeah.
Like if you have friends around you or people around you who are pointing this out, that maybe what you're doing is really unique and the chances of you doing it are very less. So don't stop, keep on doing it.
Right.
I don't know. I only have very few number of people who say that.
Yeah. makes a lot of sense. I must wonder, like, what it goes for you, how it goes for you. But I see, like, in the initial days they are quite surprised, like, how are you even making a living out of this? And like, there are things like that.
So
There are.
I was gonna ask you, like, how do you explain what you do to a lot of your family, for example?
So my mother and father, they are sorted. Like, so they are like, ladka websites banata hai. And so that's the only thing. And people now know that because of the tech culture and tech jobs happening in big cities, and these things coming in news as well. So people know that, like, okay, websites are the thing, and people do get paid for making websites. So that's all, and that's the one liner they give to my other relatives as well, which I'm fair with. Like, I don't, I, I, I don't explain them. I probably have told my father, like, how the business side of things entirely work, because, like, here's how a client comes into us. We talk to him and we deploy a certain couple of team members to work on the project. But uh, that he will understand the basics of business and how business should function. But if I sit down and try to explain him UX and things like that in detail, it might be overkill for him. So I just explain him, like, what goes into the scenes and how a business is being run. He'll also give me, like, a lot of. He's still, like, being a strict father. He never uh, never left his character. So he'll also give me advices. He'll, like, advise me a lot of things. And when I say, like, I'm being very patient with my employees, he'll say, like, ऐसे धंधा थोड़ी चलेगा, तू तो डुबा देगा company, and things like that. So these things do come from your parents, and although they never have, like, started their own business, but they will definitely give you business advice. So that happens a lot, but it's fine. Like, that's the fun of being with them, and having conversations with them, and like, bringing those conversations into podcasts like this. So that these are also part of your journey, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, everything kind of, like, connected to each other, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's very connected actually. And events and things which we don't, I would say, attribute, or I would say give importance to, even they, just because we don't see it that way does not mean they did not impact us in some way or the other.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I like anything. Uh, like, you just need to look back and understand, like, what happened. So people sometimes don't acknowledge, like, the real thing, like things that changed them, changed their entire path. You just need to acknowledge, that's all. You don't need to probably go ahead and do something for a person in favor, but just acknowledge those moments, because that's what defined you as a person who you are today. And just do that much, and the rest, if you remember that part, that is eventually going to help you in shaping up your future for sure, is what I believe. So keep all of, like, keep all the highlights of your journey in mind, and like, use that to sort of improve who you are as a person on a daily basis. So, and that improvement can mean different things for different people. So yeah.
Starting from going 25 kilometers away to school, so you started from there, and now you are about to start building a product of your own, right? I would say that's quite a long journey. But I would say, when these journeys are discussed, right? People only say, "Oh, how long did it take to build a business?" "Oh, 5 years." "Oh, 7 years." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. It did not take 7 years. It almost took a lifetime, bro. Like, it took
Absolutely.
half of my life to do this."
Yes. Currently I'm 30, and, like, that's I'm reaching 30. So absolutely half of my life for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, tell me about the product. Like, why do you think it's important for you guys to solve this particular problem that you're trying to solve? And also share the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah. So I think when I started my journey as a freelancer, so this actually was, we wanted to create a system where social proof is available to everyone. But uh, so we understood the fact that, like, to any business or to any individual, uh, like now with a growing with now there's like every single person is becoming a business in itself. Now over the last few years, uh, the world has seen a rise uh, in the market of gig economy, right? So there are a lot of gig workers. There are a lot of individual people who are solopreneurs and individual businesses, and things are changing like hard and fast, and uh, from being a system of organization and teams, people are moving more into the world of collaboration and things like that. So that's, I also believe in the power of that. Everyone in my organization, they are free to do their own thing, and I know in fact I also pass on the opportunities to them which I am not interested in taking as a team or as an agency. So that's the kind of world you need to have. We are moving to, and uh, people are saying people are firing other people because of moonlighting, but moonlighting was always there, right? It was uh, you it, like you know just people, like a few people get caught, but others, it's happening all across. So I think people who are skilled, they always uh, will sort of find out or figure out a way to sort of create their own identity or create their own persona for what they want to work for. So this is where the idea came in. It didn't originated in my head. It originated in Dayanand, who is actually co-founder of this idea. So uh, he started with probably we should build something where it's easy for any individual uh, to sort of collect testimonials from their clients or anyone, and in general, and it makes and share it with the world. So we sort of brainstormed a lot on this idea, and we saw there are already products that exist in this space, or but social proof is quite integrated to platforms specifically. So for example, if you are using Upwork, for example, the social proof stays on Upwork, right? If you're using some other platform, that stays there. So we wanted to create, we saw any business or any individual, there are three pillars to running their or having their entire thing having their entire operation successfully. So those three pillars are, in my opinion, are their proof of work, social proof, and discoverability. So with Rivista, which is our product's name, Rivista, Rivista, we are trying to tackle the first two problems first, uh, which is giving them, which is giving any individual, any small business, a platform to uh, collect social proof and to organize their proof of work at one place, and eventually help them with discoverability of their business or of their individual of their individual identities online, just by uh, what they have sort of done already out there. And how this is going to be different is it's not something you are saying about yourself, but it's something people uh, are saying about you. So it becomes difficult for businesses to there's a fine line between marketing and boasting. And these days, with a lot of ads and a lot of uh, things happening all across the globe, it becomes very convinced to customers or your potential customers to uh, so sort of make them realize about that fine line. So even if you're marketing yourself, they might think of it as you're trying to boast about certain credentials. So it's so that's what we are trying to tackle. We are trying to tackle that problem by just uh, giving a platform to the to all the skilled workers or skilled individuals or small businesses, uh, to create their own profile of social proof and proof of work.
And how were the initial days like? In the sense, did you design a mock-up and talk to a lot of freelancers, or
Yes.
you?
So actually, we did design a mock-up. In fact, we also ended up designing ended up developing a mock application, a small application, which was our beta product, and we talked to hundreds and hundreds of freelancers and students across uh, like the internet, and we actually with quite a few of them, we actually partnered to understand how they can help us in getting the message across, and what they feel the gap is. So we understood what things we were doing wrong, and probably initially when we started, we were trying to collect a lot of information which wasn't required. So uh, uh, in the initial days of Rivista, we were trying to uh, make it your resume plus social work, sorry, so social proof and proof of work platform. But we don't need to do that because LinkedIn is already there, and we don't want to compete with uh, any platform. We just want to be an add-on to what LinkedIn is already doing, right? So LinkedIn is a great platform which gets scanned by HRs and hiring professionals, right? But we felt Rivista can be someone for someone who's a manager, eventually doing your final round of interview, or who's someone like a startup owner would love to see your proof of work, or what other people have been saying about you. So that's where we would like to come in. We don't want to so we sort of when we understood that fact, we truncated those things. We just went ahead, and since we were at a very we still are at a very early stage, so we were able to take those decisions and take them down. And that's the beauty of building a product where you can roll across an MVP. We can and you can talk to a lot of customers, and take their feedback and improve on it, and get a sense of realization as well when they say bro, uh, this looks like LinkedIn only. Like, why are you making this sign up process so painful for me, or making my profile process so painful for me? So you do get no matter how many products you have designed as a UX designer. Whenever you sit down to do a product thing from start to finish, and when you are in it in the whole game, you do get those sense of realization by talking to the users, and nothing beats that.
I would also want to, ask you about building the infrastructure, which is the backend of the app. Like, are you hosted on like a cloud platform, or how does that work out? So I'm particularly asking because you are in Bootstrap right now, and I would say I would say when you are in Bootstrap, you kind of are more conscious about how you are spending the time, the money, the efforts, the skills. So how does those decisions look like for you guys right now?
Yes, obviously. So we are running with a very tight team. That's where our major cut is. The most, the amount of resources or money which it takes while building a product is to keep the team alive while we are doing all of these things. So the the team is the most important factor of all of this. But when it comes to cost of cloud and things like that, so we are definitely hosted on cloud at this point of time, on AWS. But the good part is we work from co-working spaces, and they help us in getting deals for cloud part in the initial days. So they had some partnerships with AWS, so we can at least get some good runway for the next couple of years with this co-working space. So I am part of 91 Springboard, and they do have some collations which help us in doing that. But the biggest expense is team. So how we manage that is, fortunately for us, we also have been an agency, right? So uh, we are continuing, there are some members in the team who are continuing to work on the agency side of things to make sure that the revenue is still coming, uh, which is being utilized to support the team members. Also, there's this co-founder, Dayanand. He also has his another set of businesses. He also funds uh, in the organization, to for this product. So we two are collectively, I am taking money out of my agency business, and he is taking money out of his his own businesses, and we are sort of collectively funding it to make this team run, uh, and make it grow it together while all of this is happening.
Are you also maybe looking to raise funds at some point? Do you want to completely go bootstrap, or you want to make it into a revenue generating business after a point?
Revenue is the thing. So I have a feeling that we want to stay bootstrapped till the point we are actually making revenue. So I don't want to go in front of investors barehandedly. I want to make this. I have plans how uh, I am going to make this at least generate some amount of revenue in the coming times, because I have a feeling that people will pay for this product. Let's see how this pans out. Because it's all about inculcating uh, the thoughts, inculcating the awareness of these two aspects, social proof and proof of work, within the current set of individuals. And once that is done, I think we would be able to definitely get in more users, and some of them will be paid users as well. Once that happens, I think uh, I, this will take probably 2 quarters in 2023. Post that, we are also looking to raise some funds and multiply on the team and the future plans as well.
And how does this decisions take place in the sense is, because you are spending your own money into it. So do you feel like the pressure of it in the sense, okay, we have to get this done before this deadline or else we will be in deep trouble, or it's not like that?
I think deadlines are there. We do respect the deadlines, but sometimes we are patient with certain things, because we are building a product uh, for a certain kind of market, which wasn't there. There's nothing like it uh, before, at least for the individual market. Like for businesses, it has been like that. But uh, when we started this, we were absolutely aware of the fact that we will be doing a lot of mistakes. So it has been close to a year that we have been building this and doing all of the MVP and uh, getting into test users and building a community around. So it has been around year we have been doing this together. But uh, uh, we do set deadlines for us, but we do realize we'll have to be a little patient. But now I guess we have reached a certain point where we are making good progress in terms of getting the product where we are in terms of acceptability point. There are people in the community who are saying okay, uh, we are fine with the kind of directions you are taking. We are fine with the roadmap that you are showing to us. So finally, we have reached the point where the acceptability is there in the community. Now we just need to set deadlines and keep shipping the product in the coming few months, and let's see how this goes ahead for us.
And how different is, let's say, building a product than running an agency? Is it like very different, or you have done this before? Like, how does it feel like?
So I've been part of a product with a client before, uh, in a similar fashion. So when you are in agency mode, you just want to do the UX, and you are just part of in the entire puzzle. You're just probably solving for a part in the entire puzzle. But when you're building a product, you are looking into all four corners and all aspects of it, right into it. So when I did this with a client before, uh, it was just the development team which wasn't on our side, which wasn't in house. But the rest of it, we were taking a part in it. So that gave me a certain amount of experience. That was something in the healthcare domain, but that definitely gave me a lot of experience. Now I'm sort of capitalizing on that experience and trying to build something in house. The only challenge this time was I was doing this with developers, and I ended up uh, uh, adding developers to the team for the first time. Before this, we never had developers for the agency purposes. Uh, but good part is I had that uh, again I tried my hands in code, so that helped in understanding how the entire thing works. So I can take decisions on those aspects. Having a technical knowledge is a good thing for someone who's trying to run a product. So it helps quite a lot. So yeah, this is first time whole and soul I'm operating the entire product from scratch.
Hmm. And when you, let's say, analyze the overall the gig worker trend that you are noticing, right, or you are observing, and it's true, people, we are moving towards the gig economy. Like, what are your key observations as to where the whole market is going? We are kind of in a, not India per se, but like, you keep on reading that we are entering a recession and it's going to be worse than 2008. I'm not quite sure how 2008 was, because I was too young to understand how it was. I've only read about these things. One of my aunts lost her job, so that's the only context I have. but how you are, reading what's happening right now.
I feel like research, the researching time is here, and I think what this will do is probably it will open up gates of thoughts for a lot of people where they will sit down and uh, realize what where they want to go next. For people who are absolutely skilled, this recession is not going to do anything. Probably even if they lose their jobs, they'll sit down and they'll just figure out the kind of path they want to take. And I think these kind of decisions coming from big organizations eventually will push a lot of force in the gig direction as well, because people would love to be dependent on themselves, uh, in contrast to being dependent on someone else. So in all honesty, I am not someone who's against working in large enterprises and teams, because that has its own benefits and that has its own experiences, because you want to experience how you can scale something to that extent, right? But I feel the experts in the market will eventually transition to being on their own. Eventually, you will have CEOs who are sort of who are contract CEOs, and you will have CTOs who will be contract CTOs. I think we are already seeing
Yeah,
this happening in some of the startups,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where you are entering as a CTO for a contract period with certain defined time limit to it, and then
Yeah,
your
we,
job
we
is
have a
sort of
guest on the podcast who does that.
see exactly, right. So and we are seeing high C level executives uh, uh, coming in and working as a contract worker and working on maybe a couple of things on the same time. So people who are absolutely highly skilled will be will be getting a lot more value, and moonlighting will eventually stop in I believe, because they will be absolutely transparent about they are working for two places or two ideas or two organizations at the same time. And people who are uh, sort of skilled, they will have better opportunities for sure. And that's what gig economy is going to be all about.
And the one point you mentioned, that you are trying to go for some revenue before you raise funds. All the founders I'm, for example, talking to, who already have raised funds, are kind of forced to do what you are doing eventually. So for example, all the guys who I have talked to who are operating in the crypto space or the web3 space, right? They had very different plans before the crypto market crashed, and now they all are kind of thinking, okay, maybe let's build a business that actually makes money. Like, let's make that a priority, and let's not just focus on growth at the expense of profitability. Like, I'm already seeing it.
Right. I think I read this book Rework, which highlights these points very clearly. The reason why I use Basecamp for my organization, by the way. So uh, Rework outlines these points very clearly. That think of the basics of the business or basic economics first. And I'm a big uh, believer of basic economics. That if your basic economics are right, you can take your business and scale your business to any extent. So that's what I believe. We can scale the product in certain directions that we probably are not aware at this point of time. We'll know more and more the more we'll sort of interact with the users, and uh, the more and more we talk to the users and build something for them over the period of time. But uh, whatever they are enjoying it, it's important to make sure that the economics are balanced, and we make sure that we are getting in revenues for the product, for the company, and it is staying afloat, in a way that anyone would expect, not by just being in the valuation game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot of even VCs I'm talking to, right? Even they are becoming, I don't know what's the word for it, but they're becoming more conscious,
Right.
and they are demanding more from the startups also, in the sense, okay, give us something solid or else we are not gonna come with you. You know.
Absolutely.
So have you also, like, maybe started exploring as to how to raise funds? Are you aware about how to raise funds? Do you have people to understand how to raise funds?
I think those aspects. I'm more of a product person in the team, so I don't take care of those aspects. It's probably there and like another team member Shardul who take care of those aspects. I'm very crude about uh, building my thing and getting revenues from my thing. So I'm very clear about what needs to be done for that and what kind of steps I'll have to take over the period of time to do that. And I'm a big believer of uh, like you know whatever you are doing, you will have to make your own buck for it, and you will have to make your own buck for your bank. So no one else is going to do for it. So that's and being a freelancer, being who turned into an agency owner, this thought has been there right in my head all the time. So just going with that thought process, I am doing my work. But being said that, it's not something we are not looking into how to get investments and uh, how to sort of raise funds at a certain point of time. Uh, but those roles are very clearly defined in the team. Someone else they are responsible for this particular fact, and I know my role, what I'm doing, and we have divided it. That's the beauty of team is we are clear about what needs to be done, and we are playing our roles pretty nicely.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Like, what are the, let's say, few things that were very excited about Rivista?
Currently, we are it's a simple testimonial capturing app, but soon we are working on where right now it's just a social proof application where you get to collect your social proof. But we are excited about we'll be launching where you would be able to sort of manage your portfolio under the same space. So it will be proof of work plus social proof very soon, the two pillars that we want to sort of support for a very long period of time. And then uh, uh, you would be able to sort of collect video testimonials from your clients. So yeah, you just send a link to them, just write a name, just fill up a simple form and send it to your clients, and they would be able to choose what how would they would add a testimonial for you, whether they want to add it by writing a piece of text, recording a video, or recording an audio. So that's a simple yeah, three modes. That's a simple they'll just choose an option, and as soon as they record it, it's right on your profile. uh, and you would be able to share just one link with anyone else, and they would be able to see who you are as a person. Why I say who you are as a person, because we have something called traits on our platform, which uh, are 24 different personality traits, which we have sort of figured out uh, by working with psychologists and psychotherapists, what we can sort of include on the platform. Uh, by sitting with some of the psychologist friends. What we did is if we have included all the positive sides, we never wanted to include something on the negative sides, because I feel if traits are being highlighted, it should be your positive ones. Negative ones can be part of the review if someone wants to highlight those. But so what this does, sometimes if someone asks who you are as a person, it becomes very difficult for us to say hey, then we are again crossing that fine line between telling about ourselves and boasting about ourselves. So hey, I'm knowledgeable. I am someone who's very patient. So when you say these things, it might come across that you're trying to boast about yourself. But when your profile says these things, where people have tagged you as knowledgeable or imaginative, or someone who's patient, or humorous, so that comes across what your top traits are, and that's what we are also doing in Rivista. And it's available right now as well, where you can sort of pass on a review form to your clients, and they can probably select some of few of the traits that they feel they felt while they noticed while working with you as a professional. So these are, and because these things are also important culturally, because we are talking about hiring a cultural fit these days.
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and when you
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about traits,
It's becoming more and more important. Yeah.
it's becoming more and more important, right? So when you see look at those traits, that's how you would be able to find Like people would be able to find, okay, if this person is going to be cultural fit in my organization, or while working with me, am I is this person going to be a cultural fit or not? So these are things.
So the clients can rate you on your traits. That's the idea of it.
Yeah, they
Like
can
people who
just
you
choose traits like who I felt
choose.
while
Okay.
work. For example, I can rate you for your work, but I can choose, for example, uh, Prathamesh is
What
very
kind of a
curious, for
person?
example.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
What are traits I thought Prathamesh had? For example, he's very knowledgeable and curious, and I can go ahead and choose those traits from a list of 24
I
traits
see.
available right now, and uh, that will be tagged on your review.
Wow. So what you are describing, right, is in the product world, it's termed as product discovery. Like you're trying to understand what problems the users are facing. So how does that I would say process look like internally? Do you like use special tools for the discovery part of things? Because what I'm noticing, right, is that big companies like Atlassian who makes Jira, and there is also one very new company which I hope I will get to interview very soon. They are also focused extremely on the product discovery side of things. Basically what their product does is whenever you are on a Zoom call or a Google Meet call with a potential customer, it records the whole conversation, transcribes the whole conversation, and if, for example, you are interviewing me, I am the user of the customer, and I'm telling you, the trades feature is very nice. I quite enjoy it. So on your end, right, you can tag it as a moment. So when the call gets over, that will be tagged as a moment that you or your team can look at and understand, okay, this is one of the moments I found in the conversation which will be helpful in the product design, development, whatever you are trying to do. So what they are trying to do is they're trying to make video calls with your potential customers very easy to consume for your team members and shareable for your team members. Does it make sense?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yes. Yeah. So basically, it's something where I don't have to sit with the pen and paper work during the call. Uh, I can just either on the fly on the call, I can just tap on certain things, or after the call, I can just go ahead and highlight a certain points.
So when you said tab, that's exactly what they're trying to do. So they have tags on the conversation. So let's say I'm telling you, so I was using the tag feature, but when I hit submit, it did not go through the first time. So you can tag as a bug,
Okay.
and it will tag that point in the conversation as a bug, which your team can then, okay, these are the bugs, these are the features, these are the appreciations, these are the features that we can add in the future.
Right. Makes a lot of sense.
Right. So tagging is just a part of the first part of the product. And later on, they have a lot of other features where that whole conversation will be converted into text. And that directly, that can be, once you have text, you can do a lot with the
A lot of
text,
things.
basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So the point I'm trying to make, I went on a different route, is that there is a very big focus in the industry on product discovery, especially when you are building a product like your product, who which is not a back-end product but more like a very like a consumer product, if you know what I mean, right? So how does that process look like for you guys? Do you take it very seriously, like the discovery side of things, or like what does the practice look like?
So for me, for us, it was uh, quite. So I already had this community of people who were creatives. For me, it was a good uh, point that I was already connected to a lot of creatives, right? And I knew what their journey looked like, and I being someone who was in their shoes at some point of the time, and I was able to relate a lot with the product, and then I was able to take my relatability, whatever I thought, and discuss it with a lot of creatives in the community itself. uh, I remember, before even we sort of started coding for the application. Good part, since we are agency people, so we can churn out designs and prototypes very quickly. If it's in the head, we sat down together and we were able to come up with a prototype very quickly, probably 2 or 3 days of time, whatever the initial prototype was. We just And like these were like not just wireframes; these were like a nicely colored visual designs as well. Not top notch product like a credit or something, but still using material design principles, we were able to do something like Flipkart. Just from a design aspect, I'm telling you. So we just took that and started showing it to like few people in the creative community whom I know they are not dependent on marketplaces like Upwork and Fiverr for their work. Because if you are, you won't really probably care about these reviews. But we are seeing a trend that people are getting a lot of, or people are exposing themselves on social media, and that is becoming a primary channel of their work. Like, they are getting a lot of work from being active on these platforms, and and then people are getting curious about, like, they want to know about who you are, and uh, like, people who want to sort of work with you, they want to know, like, who you are as a person. So that's where we saw, like, uh, we ran with our own set of assumptions, and we saw, like, okay, these are the points that probably. So when we sort of like did our initial mock of, traits were not part of those. For example, I'm telling you, like, it was just a simple like a Google review for individuals. It was just like that, very basic idea. But more and more we realized, uh, then we realized that, like, okay, trades can be part of it. Like, people want to know, like, who we came up. We sort of understood that people are looking for culturally fit. I never knew about the cultural fit part personally, because that's what, like, if that was the trend or something. But I realized about, like, this after reading a lot of consensus on LinkedIn, and noticing a lot of people who are talking to me, talking to us. Like, there was series of interviews happening between me, Shardul, and Mandar, and Romana as well. Like, we were talking to a lot of people in our own respective creative communities, and then we also saw that they also want to sort of get highlighted for skill sets that they are good at, right? So it should be a very easy way to getting highlighted for, like, what, for example, like, if you are a marketing strategist by the day, you can be uh, like, a designer by the night. Or I have a great example, Dinesh, in my company. He's a designer by the day and DJ by the night. Like, he's a disc jockey, literally a musician by the night. So he's a production guy. So he has very two different aspects to him, and he would love to have social proof and proof of work for both of them, right? So to give that flexibility to the client while they are uh, adding a review for you, to choose, like, who you are as a person, and to choose, like, what skill sets you help them with, is what, like, it became evitable, like, in those meetings, and like, we discovered in those meetings, and we started applying those principles in our product.
It's a lot of talking basically to a lot
Lot
of
of
people.
talking, lot of talking, and lot of, like, looking at the consensus on, like, how. So the good part is, like, we are targeting, our target audience is someone who's very active on social media these days. They are talking about it on Instagram. They are like, writing things on LinkedIn. They are tweeting things, and, like, saying things on Twitter Spaces. So they are very active, right? And that was, like, one of that actually reduced our efforts of user discovery by quite a bit. We didn't have to travel or quite a lot. We were able to do it from our own spaces. But still, we got few things wrong because we assumed them in the first place, and we got a hit back from our users. But good part is, like, we at least got a hit back, and we were able to rectify them.
So I was reading this book called Continuous Discovery. Actually, it's a book on product, and it's about how you can structure your product practice inside the company in a way that your team members, product managers, designers, developers, whoever is there, are always trying to figure out what's next on their own.
Right.
Instead of, let's say, figuring out in January what needs to be built and then spending the next 11 months just building it, how about, there is a week every month where you go out there and talk to people what they want. That way, you can pivot very fast basically. So that's why it's called continuous discovery.
Right. Uh, uh, this got me a little excited. So what's happening right now? since we are working, like Rivista is not just an in-house product, we are also working with collaborators on different ends. So there are few people on the marketing side of things who are collaborating with us. There is one person who is collaborating with us on the content aspect of it. So what happens? They we talk, like we probably reached out to them uh, during our interview or discovery sessions, like uh, just as a friend. But eventually, when they joined forces with us, they are now reaching out to different people as well, and doing their own level of discovery and research and coming back to us with certain findings that we never thought of, like could be a certain thing, right? So that definitely makes it quite interesting. Like you are sort of although we don't have the capacity to sort of take that and run it, yeah, build onto it, but at least that ideation and that continuous discovery is happening in terms of ideation. I think this is what this also happened with Google Meet, for example. Jake Knapp talks about this in his book Sprint, where Google Meet was a very just a small project internally, and like they just ran with it and did a prototype of it like in 2 weeks, and it was supposed to be an internal tool, but now we started this conversation on Google Meet. So yeah, so uh, this has become quite big. So I think I do believe uh, in this idea of continuous discovery, and it can definitely take you to spaces and places for sure.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So I am on the other end of this whole conversation, right? So I am thinking from where you started to where you are, and I really hope that in the next couple of months, I would like to actually get a better update. In this, what I mean by that is I am starting to understand how deeply you are invested in building the product. Yeah, I would say the one thing I was very interested about is that you're bootstrapping the whole thing, and it's kind of risky. But now, after talking to you, I think you know what you guys are doing, which is a good thing.
It's just being aware of I think like whatever the possibilities you have, uh, and like playing on your strengths is what I feel is what we are doing right now, and we'll continue to do so and make sure that we are capitalizing on our chances whenever we have them.
So whenever you try to, for example, monetize it, what kind of ideas you have around monetization? Do you want to maybe go and make it into an end-to-end app where clients can directly pay using Rivista, or the other way where the users basically pay you a subscription for a month or a year?
Yeah, something on those models. Like we'll be charging creators, like who will be sort of like receiving testing, who are on the receiving end. So our target audience is like people who will be using this to like sort of promote themselves, like who will be using this platform as a proof of work or a social proof platform. Uh, but like we want to see like how things pan out and how much people are ready to pay. So they are ready to pay like in conversations, but we have not hit that reality ground yet. So I won't say like people say something when you take surveys, and people do something when the actual pricing plans are out. So we are still not there, but I'm hopeful about like that what we are building uh, might we will get some good amount of traction, and we will be able to like hit some revenues with the community of creators and service providers and like individuals only, at least in the beginning.
So the one thing about bootstrapping, right, is that there is no end to how much money you can spend.
Right, exactly. And especially like when I have a channel sorted for revenues coming in as well. Like right now we are at a stage where uh, for example, money was never a value number one for me, so I am happy with whatever I have, right? So the revenues that are coming in, I am happily putting it towards the product, right? uh, but the good part is like uh, another aspect to it is like we don't want to like stay so comfortable that we are not keep making any we are not making any like real strides towards the improvement or towards the actual goal. So we want to make sure that, because what happens, like if you show certain promise to your audience or certain promise to, even though it's a small community, they are expecting something out of it, and that's what really keeps you on the edge and make sure that like, you are developing every single day.
Are you also maybe thinking, with a perspective where you kind of, let's say, I am a creator or I'm a gig worker, I use your product. Is there like a system or a conversation where you kind of ask them, okay, how much money did you make after using a product? Like how did it help you save time, make more money you after you started using a product?
Yeah, I probably get a question like, you're asking if we are going back to the users and asking them like, if sort of how much amount of time we are going to save for you, and like how much amount of impact.
Or the amount, like what is success for the user after using your app? Like, okay, I understand the social proof aspect of it, portfolio aspect of it, and then what?
Right. So for them, like what we have understood the fact so far is the aspect where they can sort of share it with convenience. And uh, for example, like if you're going in the hiring process, your resume gives like certain talking points to the certain points or certain idea about who you are, like what you've accomplished so far, to the HR, and then the conversations begin. So in a similar fashion, when like we want Rivista, or what Rivista has been to what users are thinking, at least as of now, that when they are creating their own profile of social proof and proof of work, that is just like getting the conversation started in a way that they would have expected, because now someone who has read their profile is already aware of like who they are as a person, and what the kind of things they have achieved while providing services to their other clients. So that's like that's where like the most impact is. We have not calculated this in terms of ROI that it is going to make for them, but I feel like it's uh, uh, like if someone, for example, is not very outspoken or doesn't uh, uh, like doesn't doesn't know like how to sell himself, for example, or doesn't have that starting point in the conversations, can still like will be able to use Revista and will be able to capitalize a lot. Like for those kind of people, it will be a very game changing thing, because now their profile is talking, doing the initial conversations for them, and they won't have to go through the awkwardness of initial conversations. But for someone like who knows, like who has been in the game, and uh, uh, like and he has been like impacting his line of service by providing service to their clients for formidable amount of time, they would be able to like sort of take their game to the next level, because they already have like a good so right now what happens, like we put uh, testimonials on our website, uh, which which only like sort of look credible when your website or when your brand has been known by your uh, prospective user like very clearly. But if there's a platform in between which is validating like what your a client said about you, or the kind of work which you are doing, and like if there are, for example, video testimonials given by your client to sort of uh, they are like cherry on the top. So you are basically like capitalizing. You would be able to capitalize on that and up your game, and maybe like raise your prices and things like that in future.
Like there is one problem you're solving is to help people put themselves out there in a better way. And there is this other problem which is to actually, I would say, close a deal using Revista. And right. So I'm just thinking very out loud. So don't mind me. But after what you are describing, right, where you guys are going, my the question that came to my mind was, if, for example, a Revista gig worker or a Revista freelancer makes $1,000 out of Revista, and you can kind of, I don't know how that will happen. That is a different discussion. But if you guys help that guy make $1,000, I think they'll be very happy to give you like 50 to $100 out of it.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like for example, if uh, uh, they will only pay once they understand the importance of like what it is doing for them, like how it is reducing the number of questions that are coming from the clients, the prospective leads, how they are getting an idea about what they are uh, basically it will reduce the amount of emails that you will have to exchange before closing the leads, and that time is a very big time eventually, right? And uh, I think in the social world, like people when they are scanning as for example Fiverr profile or Upwork profile, uh, it's evident to them, because it's very platform specific social proof or proof of work. But now for someone who wasn't looking for work on those platforms, but was open to uh, but was trying to get work from social media channels, and was trying to explain what their services are. It was quite a lot of back and forth with the client, and right, it takes a lot of time to process, to start the conversations, to process the conversations, and to close the deal. And you rightly said, if uh, someone who can use Rivista to sort of reduce that back and forth, and close the deal probably 10 times faster than what they are currently doing right now, on the basis of what they have already collected. So unfortunately, when you're sort of uh, getting work from social media channels, and you are ending a particular work, you get a review on probably on your email, or on WhatsApp, which is take a snapshot of and share it on Instagram stories, and then that's the end of it, right? But if you can make a credible profile out of it, if you can sort of use that and make a credible profile out of it, there's nothing like it. You would be able to sort of reduce your onboarding time of a particular client, and you would be able to close deals faster. And once people understand the importance of social work and proof of work put together, they would definitely happy they will happily pay for it for sure.
I understand your point, right? But I'm kind of actually coming from a place where, how about, why don't you guys kind of help these Revista users make money out of it?
Right. That's the discoverability factor is what you're talking about. Is it discoverability
No, no,
factor,
no, no,
like?
not really discoverability, right? In the sense, so let's say I build this tool, right? And it does a thing, but it kind of looks as if you have built this tool, you are giving it to the users, but now the user is kind of on his own or her own, to actually make money out of it. So, like, you are not taking the responsibility to help them make the actual money,
Okay, getting it. Yes.
right? You are taking the responsibility. Okay, I will reduce the back and forth, I will reduce the email interactions. Okay, okay, got it. But if, don't you feel like if you are a user, right, you are like, yeah, I can take care of that, why don't you like come in, push me even forward and actually help me close a deal? And if you do that for me, I don't mind paying you some money out of it.
Yes. Makes a lot of
Like,
sense.
you already have figured out the social proof part, okay? But even your hypothesis is, if you do that, you make money.
No, no, you're absolutely right. That also falls under the part of discoverability where, I was talking about. So the three pillars again, the social proof of work and discoverability are essential to any aspect of getting a business. So right now we are not working on the discoverability part. We are expecting that a user will do on his own when they have a profile of proof of work and social proof. But we do have plans that we do want to, for example, if we have certain amount of users, then we can categorize these different service providers and make them uh, discover get them discovered using our own platform, right? Which is very highly SEO optimized, and people are getting a push from that angle. They don't like whatever the profile that they have created. For example, if someone is trying to search for a designer in India, right now what happens, people get a list of agencies on Google. So why not get a list of individuals that are already on Revista, and they are not talking about themselves, their customers are talking about them, like how good they are, and go ahead and start approaching them. So how about that? So
So even in, for example, the gig worker cohort, right? You can take a cohort where these people are already getting clients on a very regular basis. So they're successful, they're making the money, and they want to save time.
Right. Collaborating with others, small
No,
co-worker.
in the sense, so I'll tell you what I'm understanding from what you're pitching. Okay, you are saying that the current problem is that social proof and portfolio are not together. Okay, now even in the freelance cohort, right? Who will actually face this problem? The guy who is just getting started, or the guy who is already, who has kind of made it as a gig worker, and who is, because from what you are saying, right, it feels to me that you are trying to save people time.
Hmm. Right.
Like that's the value proposition. Is it accurate or no?
Absolutely. It is. It is. Right there. Yep.
So for who time is valuable, who is super successful, and whose problem is I don't want to spend time emailing my clients. I don't know. It feels to me that if that's the cohort of freelancers you're going for, they can already pay for it.
Okay.
So the discoverability factor comes into picture when you are targeting a different cohort altogether of freelancers who are not able to find work. Does that make sense? No?
Makes sense to me. Yes. I'll probably have to come back to it. Like, I need to talk to you more on this, but definitely, like, it rings certain bells in, like in my head for sure.
Like you are saying freelancers, okay? I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But even in freelancers, you can divide freelancers into a lot of cohorts depending on where they are in their freelance journey. Are you just starting out? Are you already successful? Are you in the middle? So where does Rivista fit in exactly? Because if you go that deep, right, then you'll be able to build products for particularly that cohort.
Right. Makes sense.
Like if let's say when you were freelancing, right, you had 20 clients on a monthly basis, you had a very different problem compared to a freelancer who is getting one per month. If you're getting one client per month, your problem is how do I get more clients? And if you're getting 20 per month, your problem is okay, how do I
Manage my
do
work.
more of the things? Yeah, right. So which cohort are you trying to go for?
Hmm. Right. Makes sense. So I think with Rivista, we were trying to, like, go for the initial ones, like people who are trying to find uh, clients. And what happens, like, one of the cons in the freelancing journeys, or one of the major things in the freelancing journeys, is like your cycle is, like, quite up and down. Like, some months you're in business, and you are marketing yourself, and then, like, you have got the work, and you're not marketing yourself, and not reaching out to people, and then that project is finished, and then, like, you have nothing all of a sudden. So it's quite wavy in that nature, I believe. So I think, like, having these are probably the mid-level freelancers that you were talking about. But to have, like, we were trying to, like, solve it for initial stage and mid-level freelancers. But that's a good one, where we can also think of something and solve it for freelancers who have made it, right? And how can we sort of make it?
If you are just getting started, do you really have money to spend on tools which you are not very sure about? Does it make sense? Like even Upwork has a paid feature, right? It helps you go for an agency or something. But if you are just getting started, will you pay $10 a month for it
Hmm, interesting. Yes.
without really knowing if this works or not? But if you're a rich freelancer, you are already money is not a problem for you. Your problem is, you know what, man, I don't want to email my clients every day. It's just waste of my time. So I these are the questions that are coming to my mind. But you can yeah. What do you think?
I think, yes, to an extent, like, it's quite right. For example, uh, like, it becomes it will only be valuable for someone, like, of that stature, like, a good freelancer, if he's able to, like, sort of capitalize and manage the situations like this, just like you said right now, right? But uh, like I still feel like if that aspect, like for example, someone who has started the journey and and grows his profile, or like grows into the entire journey from start to finish, they will still have an aspect where they would be able to like sort of uh, capitalize their uh, profile and like sort of reduce the conversation start. But again, like you pointed out very well, it is just probably like a point reducing the number of times you have to interact with the client, but is not solving the problem of managing things for the freelancer, right? So
No,
that
so
means
you tell me, when you were getting started, for example, what was your big problem? Was it to save time or to make more money?
at that point, yes, to make more money, right? When we were right, yes, exactly. When it was more about to sort of like, but I guess uh, this also comes with the factor like, for example, like it was very difficult to explain to my clients like who I am as a person, and like what, yeah, what that definitely is there. No matter like how much amount of uh, dribble or behance links you send to your clients as a designer, uh, there are questions asked to you like for example, like what, why you, right? Why should I go with you, right? What makes you special, and then like how can you show it to me? So that is where like your social proof works in your favor. If I would have had something.
I completely agree. Now, okay, now let's take a business perspective. Okay, like like you are building this product. Who do you think will be more likely to pay for something like this? Not use it, pay for.
Yes, yes. Someone like who has uh, attained some amount of journey with us. For example, like he's starting with us. He is like who's using the product, but he eventually realizes the importance of like what.
Yeah, so okay, I think I need to reframe the question actually. Who do you think will be open to paying you in less than 7 days of using the product?
So I think like that's a good question. Like overall, I feel like these will be like a slightly mid-tier freelancers who understand the importance, like how it is or like small, but like they haven't made it yet, like these kind of businesses, like who understand the importance of like what social proof, what, like they will be aware of like what social proof and proof of work is, but they haven't got it figured out in one place yet, is what I feel. So like probably these are the people who will like pay us
In
within
seven
about
days.
7 days. Yes.
And I'm only thinking on these lines, right? Because you mentioned that you want to make money before you start raising funds in 6 months.
Mhm. Right.
I'm like, okay, how can you make money in 6 months? Right. So instead, you already have the product ready, people are using it. So the question should not be how can you make money in 6 months? The question should be how can you make money in a week?
Right. Makes sense.
And maybe if you just do the cohorting in a different way and try to focus on people for whom, okay, maybe saving time is a problem, who have faced an issue that where okay, I did not have my social proof and portfolio as a single place, and that's why I did not get the client. Okay, Rivista can do that for me.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Yes.
So right now I would say you guys have product market fit because people are using it, that you are solving a problem. But do we have what what was it called, like a business model fit? Like, does it make money?
Does it make money? Yes.
I don't know, I was just thinking out loud. I hope you like, yeah.
No, it's absolutely fine. So I think we are also in a place where we are also like uh, trying to figure out like how people will pay for it, right? So, and we have a feeling of like it, like people might pay, but you never know until you just roll out with it and
Actually ask
see.
them, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually, no, ask them. They will say like they'll happily pay, but that is there. Like people are saying like I'll happily pay for it if I'm allowed to do certain things with my reviews. Like and if I'm allowed to like take it and put it wherever I want to have open-ended APIs for things like that. So pros are saying things like these. Uh, but like when time comes, whether they are going to take that money out of their pockets and pay it to us, is it going to happen? That's where the interesting thing is. That's where the BMF or business model fit will arrive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, this was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem, I would say. But a lot of times, uh, the perception of value is different depending on where you are in the journey. If you are broke, then you don't mind walking and going somewhere and getting on the metro. But as you, let's say, become busier and the value of money goes down and the value of time goes up, your entire perception of the walk changes.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys are thinking on these lines, but that's what I am thinking after listening to what you are saying, actually.
No, no, I'm absolutely uh, I agree to the fact that you need to be aware of all these aspects and take decisions accordingly as per those aspects. So uh,
Like product gives value, but whom does it give you value enough for them to, let's say, pay $1,000 a month or $1,000 a year?
right.
So it feels to me that it's a customer segmentation problem going forward. That's what I can say. I again, these are just very loosely held assumptions, so I apologize, but yeah, that's what I think.
No, 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 no. It's absolutely fine, Prathamesh. Uh, it's something I feel like uh, it's important to have these kind of outcomes as well, to listen to these kind of outputs as well, because that's what eventually will make us think and sit down with the team on in drawing board and see where we are headed. So now we are at a certain stage, and we are only going to grow as a product, or as a product for the users, until only when we understand these facets uh, before hitting the wall, right? So these kind of topics, they open up certain aspects which we probably didn't thought of in the first place, but are are a must have, or are must for us to realize to 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 take that step in the future. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate this.
Is this something you're discussing for the first time?
So we have had certain things, yeah, on and off, from certain other people as well. But yes, to go in this much amount of depth. Uh, yes, first time for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it was nice. It's nice.
Nice, absolutely right. To And it's also probably uh, uh, my second or third time experience where I am doing a certain product from start to finish, uh, where I don't know where the end is. So let's see how this goes.
But this was nice. I think I know where you are coming from. I exactly know where you're coming from, actually. It's very nice. How was it to be on your end? How was it? Do you think about your, like, the whole journey so often?
Uh, like I don't sit down and because we are in a certain fast paced environment that you really don't get to sit down and think about all of this. So uh, it so, as I was talking today, it took me a little while to bring those things back and put it right in front of you, right? So if you are trying and lost in thoughts and trying to bring them out and uh, sort of put it together in a way that is consumable by everyone else as well. So yeah, it took a little while for me to sort of bring them. So I don't really think about all of those things. Uh, but yeah, once in a while, whenever you are with maybe parents, or with some of the close friends, maybe that's one meetup happening every year or so. So then you sort of have certain discussions, and you do bring up these aspects for sure.
Well, I hope it was fun for you.
Absolutely, it was fun. Uh, like to know you better as well. Like you are very curious, and to get to know all the aspects, and yeah, to have that uh, challenging session at the end of the episode was quite nice as well. To be honest,
Completely unscripted.
uh, I hope this turned out to be 2.5 hours long. I'm not sure how you are going to trim it in form of one episode,
No, we'll do it.
but maybe that's where your skill
Yeah,
is.
yeah, we'll do it.
that,
Yeah.
that's where your skill is. Is are the conversations this long usually?
Yeah, so we have done 3 episodes, which are more than 2 hours.
Okay.
Like we want to keep it as it is. Like
Cool.
I follow this podcaster called Lex Friedman, and he did an episode
Hmm.
recently with Srinivas, and it was
Hmm.
7.5 hours.
Wow.
Yes. So
Okay.
in the podcasting world, right, the one we are trying to go into in the long form podcast genre, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours is like very, very normal.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I did not have the
Got it.
capacity to talk for 4 hours actually.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm
Got it.
trying to get there. I'm trying to go 3 hours, 4 hours in the future. Yeah.
Maybe our next conversation when you're challenging me even more.
It was fun, no? It was fun. It was like a fun thing.
It was fun. It was fun. Yeah. So it should be a two-way thing where uh like actually in a podcast three-way thing where you have a takeaway, I have a takeaway, and listeners are also having takeaway from all the aspects. So they will have a takeaway from my mistakes, what I did, right? Uh, and uh, like and it's a good one. Like eventually, it doesn't have to be uh, like uh, uh, like a gloomy story all the time, right? It should be right. It should be all based on realities, and that anyone should be comfortable with, and that's the way to go about it. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate it. You putting up these questions and making me think, which will probably make me make me a little slightly better in terms of going about my product. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, and you have come a really long way, man. Yeah, though the 50-50 assessment is very inaccurate. It's not a 50-50 chance, it's a very less chance to do what you're doing.
It's a very
It's a
less
it's
time.
a very less chance.
Right.
And I really
Mhm.
appreciate that, you're
Absolutely.
putting yourself out there, you are so authentic, you are saying things as it is. It's very nice to see it. It shows that, like, you have maybe, in the first discussion we had, I got a feeling that, you have it in your head that, this is where you come from, because I think you had to share it. Like, I'm from Nagpur, so it was difficult for me, and it was difficult for you. But if you are talking about this so freely, right, it's like it does not really affect you anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. It was just part of it. It was part of the life, and you just embrace whatever life gave to you, and you just capitalize on things which you learn over the period of time with different experiences, right? So uh, and every uh, event, every conversation is an experience in itself, and you just capture whatever the best you can from each and every experience.